Okay, we're going to do one more type of layer here. We've looked at layer masks already, and we've looked at destructive adjustments. So if I went up to image adjustments, I'm changing the file by using these ones up here. So I'm going to show you where you can change the color and contrast and all those sorts of things without changing the original file. And we're going to do that through the masking concept. So I'm going to come down here, and there's a couple ways you can apply a layer mask or an adjustment layer. This little black and white circle. Then you'll notice there's a whole bunch of the same options you would normally find up here under image adjustments. They match up pretty darn close. So two ways of doing this. I'm going to start with this one here, and I'm going to put on a hue saturation adjustment layer. Now I'm going to move out my layers here for a second. I'll put adjustments out, and I'll drag out the layers palette so you can see both at once pretty easily. So notice it has put an adjustment layer on here. You can see the masking white box that we see when we normally use a or a layer mask. So now I have also these controls off to the side. So if I want to change the hue of this picture, I can change it to whatever I wish. If I want to desaturate it and make it a black and white, I can kind of do that. Notice the hue in that doesn't matter anymore. I can change the lightness and the darkness. And now the nice thing about that, even if I close this, that layer is just sitting on top. So if I turn it off, boom, I still have all my color controls, everything's still there. Turn it back on, and it goes to black and white. So I've made an image adjustment without actually touching the original file or the original image, which is the background layer. Now the cool part about this is that I can actually paint color back in just like I would do on a layer mask. So I can choose a brush, make sure I'm on black, because that's going to punch a hole through that white layer, and it's going to reveal the colorful butterfly underneath. So I'm just going to do a quick painting here. I'm not going to spend any time on this. Go around. And the nice part is, say I go too far and I go, ooh, oops, I don't want to do that. I just switch back to the white paintbrush and I can paint that color away. So if you can see around his head here, there's a bit of green showing through. I'll just change my brush size and I can paint that away. And that's good enough for now. And my bug or my butterfly is back to being just the only bit of color on the screen, and that's using an adjustment layer. I can stack adjustment layers. I can put another brightness contrast on there on top, and I can crank up the contrast. I can crank up the brightness. I can dull the brightness. I can do whatever I like. So I'm going to crank up the contrast a bit and a bit of the brightness. And if you lose these layers, it's not a big deal. If you click off here, you can see on the side, you can find adjustments. If I have it listed, if I don't have it on the side, you just come in here, click on adjustments. There they are. And depending on which layer you're on, so notice this is brightness contrast. Click on hue saturation and it changes. Again, I can play with these at any point in time. That's the nice part, and that's called non-destructive editing because I'm not changing the original file. However, when I go to save this, if I save it as a JPEG or a compressed file, it's going to flatten all of those images or those layers together. So I'd have to keep this as either a Photoshop PSD or something where I can maintain those separate layers. So just keep that in mind as you start stacking these on top of each other. And remember, you can always turn them off and on at any point in time to see what it looks like without those adjustment layers. That looks pretty good. And you have a whole range to choose from. And I'm not going to go through every one of them, but I'm sure as you play you'll see different uses for different ones. And that's what's called an adjustment layer. And don't forget that you can paint through the mask and turn it on and off. So just be careful of that.